His voice was a low, urgent whisper in the darkness, shattering the last remnants of my nightmare. "You ran," he said, his body crowding me against the wall of my own bunk, his eyes blazing with an intensity I'd only ever seen in my dreams. In the dream, why, my mind was a chaotic mess of static and confusion. He knew. He somehow knew. He leaned in, his hands framing my face, his touch a searing brand against my skin. "Those dreams, Drew, they're not just yours. They're ours. I thought I was losing my mind, dreaming of you every single night. But you were there too, weren't you?" My world tilted on its axis. The dreams, the secret fantasies that I cherished and agonized over in the lonely hours of the night were not mine alone. Every morning, I was ripped from a perfect, impossible world where Hughes, my stoic and unapproachable roommate, was my everything. In that world, he would lean over me, his voice a gravelly murmur meant only for my ears. "Babe, time to get up." His dark hair would fall across his forehead in a way that made my breath catch. And a lazy smirk would play on his lips, a smirk that sent a cascade of flips through my stomach. In the dream, I was brave. Strayed D grin and loop my arms around his neck, my voice playful. "Only if you kiss me first." And he would, a soft chuckle rumbling in his chest as he called me clingy before his lips met mine. Then, the piercing shriek of my alarm clock would yank me back to the cold, stark reality of our shared dorm room. Strayed D sit bolt upright, my heart hammering against my ribs, my cheeks flushed with the phantom heat of his touch. The room was always a symphony of morning chaos. Russella Strayed S rhythmic snoring from the opposite bunk, the distant buzz of someone Strayed S electric toothbrush. But all I could feel was the lingering ghost of Hughes Strayed S dream kiss, a sweet ache that reality was all too eager to erase. I would cautiously peek through the gap in my bed curtain, my gaze inevitably finding him. There he Strayed DB, crouched by his own bunk, tying the laces of his sneakers with quiet, focused intensity. He was a creature of sharp angles and silent confidence, the undisputed heartthrob of the campus, a celestial body whose orbit I just happened to be caught in. He knew I existed, of course, but only as Drew, the roommate who occasionally pilfered his cereal when I ran out. For weeks, this had been my private torture. Every night, I would fall into a world where he was my doting, affectionate boyfriend, where the word babe fell from his lips as naturally as breathing. And every morning, I would wake up to the real Hughes, the king of monosyllabic responses and polite, soul-crushing indifference. Strayed D scrub at my face, trying to physically wipe away the suffocating layer of disappointment. I suppose a foolish, romantic part of me had hoped that maybe, just maybe, he was dreaming of me too, like some copyright out of a paperback novel. But Hughes had never given me so much as a strange glance, so I kept my massive, all-consuming crush locked away in the deepest vault of my heart. The risk of him thinking I was some kind of creep was far too great to ever let it see the light of day. "Yo, Drew, are you even on this planet?" Russell's voice sliced through my morning haze. He was already halfway to the door, his backpack slung carelessly over a single shoulder. "You look like you wrestled a garbage truck and lost." "Rough night," I mumbled, swinging my legs over the edge of my bunk, my body feeling heavy and sluggish. Russell snorted, a sound of pure amusement. "What, dreaming about your secret lover again?" I froze mid-motion, my blood turning to ice. But he was already out the door, his laughter echoing down the hallway. If he only knew the half of it. My eyes found Hughes again. He was standing now, grabbing his own bag, clad in a simple black hoodie. He looked like he Eurostrayed just stepped out of a high-fashion photo shoot. A desperate urge to say something to anything to rose in my throat, but my tongue felt thick and useless. He didn't even spare me a glance as he moved towards the door, his presence a fleeting shadow. It was painfully typical. Still half submerged in the intoxicating residue of my dream, I began my descent from the top bunk. My mind was still replaying the feeling of his hands in my hair, his lips on mine, and my foot slipped on the ladder. A strangled yelp escaped me as I flailed, bracing myself for a painful impact with the floor. But the crash never came. Instead, a pair of strong arms wrapped around me, steadying me against a chest that was as warm and solid as I had always imagined. A jolt, electric and potent, shot through me from where his hands gripped my waist. "Careful," Hughes said. His voice was flat, devoid of emotion, but it was so close. Too close. His breath ghosted across the shell of my ear, and for a terrifying second, I was convinced my heart had stopped beating entirely. I scrambled backward, disentangling myself from his hold, my ears burning with a humiliating heat. Thanks, I managed to squeak out, my voice sounding embarrassingly high-pitched. He had already let go, his expression as unreadable as ever. "No problem." He slung his bag over his shoulder and walked out, the door clicking shut behind him. It was a sound of finality, cementing my status as just some random guy he Eurostrayed saved from a clumsy fall, not the person who spent every night dreaming of kissing him. I stared at the spot on the floor where he had stood, the phantom sensation of his touch still tingling on my skin. A dull ache bloomed in my chest. It was just a dream, Drew. Get a grip. I was just setting myself up for heartbreak, pining for the straightest, most unattainable guy on campus. What did I honestly expect? A fairy tale ending? I trudged to the bathroom and splashed my face with cold water, the shock doing little to clear my head. The reflection that stared back was a pathetic sight, a guy with hopelessly messy brown hair and a frown that seemed etched into his features. "You're an idiot," I told him. From the corner of the sink, Russella Eurostrayed's abandoned electric razor buzzed mockingly. By the time I was dressed and ready, the dorm was deserted. I grabbed my backpack and headed to my first class, but my thoughts were a tangled mess, all leading back to Hughes. In my dreams, he was a landscape of soft smiles and loving pet names. In reality, I was lucky to get a two-word sentence out of him. It was like living in two separate, parallel universes. In one, I was the center of his world. In the other, I was completely invisible. I collapsed into a seat in the vast lecture hall, the Professor Eurostrayed droning about macroeconomics, nothing more than white noise. My notebook, which should have been filled with academic insights, was instead a canvas for my pathetic pining, hearts with a capital H scrawled inside them. My God, I was a walking copyright. I furiously scribbled over the evidence before anyone could see. After class, I made my way back to the dorm, my stomach rumbling in protest. Russell was already there, sprawled on his bunk, endlessly scrolling through his phone. "Dude, you look like someone stole your puppy," he commented, not even bothering to look up. "Long day," I lied, collapsing onto my own bed. I pulled the curtain halfway shut, creating a flimsy barrier against the world and his prying eyes. "Arhar, you sure eater Eurostrayed not your mystery crush giving you trouble." Russell was grinning now, and he tossed a balled-up sock in my direction. It missed by a mile. "Come on, spill." War Euros trade S the one War Euros trade S got you all mopey. No one, I snapped, the words coming out sharper than I intended. He raised a skeptical eyebrow but, to my immense relief, didn't press the issue. If he ever found out it was Hughes, our roommate, he would make my life a living hell. I rolled onto my side, facing the cold, blank wall. The vivid details of the dream were starting to fade, but the ache in my chest remained, a constant, dull throb. I desperately wanted to stop dreaming about Hughes, to stop feeling this crippling cascade of emotions every time he was near. But it was a futile wish. Every time I closed my eyes, he was there, warm and close and everything I ever wanted. And every morning, I woke up to the real Hughes, the one who barely knew I was alive. Maybe I was cursed. Or maybe I was just delusional. Either way, I was completely and utterly screwed. I hugged my pillow to my chest, wishing it was him, knowing with a certainty that pierced my heart that it never would be. The dorm room fell quiet, the only sounds being the occasional buzz from Rosella Eurostrade's phone and the frantic, stupidly hopeful beating of my own heart. I knew that tonight I would dream of him again. And tomorrow I would wake up to the exact same cold, lonely reality. What was the point of having such beautiful dreams if they only made waking up hurt so much more? I was dragging myself back from a particularly grueling psych class, hoodie pulled up and earbuds blasting, when I saw him. Hughes was leaning against the exterior wall of our dorm building, a study in effortless cool. His sharp jawline and the casual confidence he exuded in a simple black jacket were enough to make my traitorous heart perform its usual gymnastics. Then I saw her. A girl was talking to him, her hands gesticulating wildly, her voice cutting through the ambient chatter of the quad. I froze, quickly pretending to be absorbed in something on my phone. There was no way I was going to interrupt that. It was a familiar scene. Hughes was probably in the process of politely shutting down yet another admirer. The man had a fan club that could rival the university's football team. I was about to perform my usual slingcast maneuver when the girl's words reached me sharp and clear, like a slap to the face. Hughes, I've liked you forever. Can you just give me a chance? Her voice was a mixture of boldness and desperation that made me physically cringe in second-hand embarrassment. Hughes Eurostrade's expression was carved from stone. No, can you move? He tried to step around her, but she deftly blocked his path. Not until you say yes, or at least tell me what kind of girl you're into. I can change, I promise. She was practically vibrating with frantic energy. Against my better judgment, I was dying to hear his answer. I pictured his type in my head, a tall, blonde, probably a cheerleader with a radiant smile. My curiosity was a roaring fire, easily overpowering my sense of pride. So I lingered, my eyes glued to the blank screen of my phone, pretending to be utterly engrossed. Suddenly, Hughes Eurostrade's head turned, and his gaze locked directly onto mine across the quad. My heart leaped into my throat. I flashed him a goofy, awkward smile, praying I didn't look like the pathetic stalker I felt like. His eyes flickered for a moment, a strange, unreadable emotion passing through them. Then, loud enough for both me and the girl to hear, he said, actually, I Eurostrade am into guys. Sorry, he shrugged, as if he were commenting on the weather. The girl froze mid-bounce. My own jaw hit the pavement. Guys? My brain felt like it had been short-circuited. Was he being serious? The girl let out a sharp, disbelieving laugh. You don't have to tank your reputation just to get rid of me, you know. Hughes didn't Eurostrade even grace her with a reply. Instead, his gaze found me again, and he crooked a single finger in my direction. "Drew," he called out, his tone the same one you might use to summon a stray puppy. I swallowed hard, my legs beginning to move before my brain could process the command. My pulse was a frantic drum solo against my ribs. "Hey, what's up?" I managed to say, sounding as if Eurostrade D just sprinted a marathon. And then he grabbed my hand. His actual hand was holding mine, and a jolt of pure electricity shot up my arm. His voice, when he spoke again, had softened almost imperceptibly. "Took you long enough. Ready to grab lunch?" He started tugging me toward the dorm entrance, leaving the girl standing there, her mouth agape in utter shock. I blinked, completely dazed. Lunch? Hand-holding. My entire nervous system was focused on the point of contact, his fingers wrapped firmly and warmly around mine. I was too stunned to form a coherent thought, let alone a word, as he pulled me inside, up the stairs, and into the relative privacy of our hallway. The moment we were out of sight, he dropped my hand as if it were a hot coal and leaned back against the wall, his usual cool detachment settling over him like a shroud. "Sorry about that, Drew," he said, rubbing the back of his neck. "She just wouldn't quit. I said I was gay. It was the quickest way out." Oh, my stomach twisted into a painful knot. So it was a lie. Of course it was. "No big deal," I said, shoving my hands deep into my pockets to hide their trembling. "Glad I could help." He tilted his head, studying me with those dark, intense eyes that always made me squirm. "Can I ask you for one more favor?" I would have agreed to rob a bank for him at that moment, fake gay or not. "Sure, name it," I said, trying to sound casual, but my voice betrayed me with a slight crack. "Could you Euros keep being my boyfriend? Just for a few days," he said, the words so casual they could have been a request to borrow a textbook. "Fake, obviously. LOU1. If you're not cool with it, no pressure. I'll just clear up the rumor." My heart was performing a series of impossible aerial maneuvers in my chest. To be Eurostrade's fake boyfriend. It was the closest I would ever get to the dream version of him, the one who held me and called me babe. I was already nodding before he finished speaking. "Yeah, I'm in. It's fine. We're roommates, right? Got to have your back." I paused, then felt a strange compulsion to add, "Plus, being gay isn't Eurostrade a bad thing." A corner of his mouth twitched, the ghost of a smile. "Thanks. Might need to, hold hands in public. Is that okay?" I nodded so vigorously I nearly gave myself whiplash. "Totally fine." My voice was far too eager, and I cringed internally. "Cool it, Drew." He straightened up, heading for our room. "You're a lifesaver." I trailed behind him, my heart pounding a frantic rhythm against my ribs. Fake or not, I was going to get to hold his hand. I was going to get to pretend, just for a little while, that he was mine. It was pathetic how much that simple thought thrilled me to my very core. Back in our room, Russell was in his usual spot, sprawled on his bunk and shoveling chips into his mouth. "Well, look who's finally back," he said, a smirk spreading across his face. "What was with a hand holding out there? You two eloping?" I nearly choked on my own saliva. Hughes, completely unfazed, tossed his jacket onto his bed. "Just helping me out with a clingy admirer," he said, his voice dry. Russell's eyes lit up with insatiable curiosity. "Wait, what? Spill the tea, Drew." "Nothing to spill," I mumbled, flopping onto my bunk in a dramatic heap. "Just helping a bro out." "Although, sure," Russell said, crunching loudly on another chip, his grin widening. "You're blushing, man." Something's definitely up. I am not, I protested, yanking my bed curtain shut with more force than necessary. Rosella Eurostrade's boisterous laughter echoed in the small space as I buried my head in my pillow. He was going to be absolutely insufferable about this. I lay there, the memory of Hughes's hand in mine still vivid. It had felt so real, so right, but it was all a performance. He was just using me as a convenient shield to dodge girls, and I was the willing, idiotic accomplice who was perfectly okay with it. What was wrong with me? I was actively signing up for a future of guaranteed heartbreak, but the thought of saying no to him was impossible. Not when it meant I could be close to him, even if the entire foundation of that closeness was a lie. Tonight, I knew I would dream of him again. His soft voice, his strong arms around me. And tomorrow, I would step into my role as his fake boyfriend, knowing with a painful certainty that it was as close to the real thing as I would ever get. I was so incredibly screwed, but at this point, I was too far gone to even care. The news spread through the campus faster than a wildfire. By Monday morning, the primary topic of conversation seemed to be Hughes's sudden coming out and, by extension, our relationship. I was just trying to grab a coffee at the student union when I heard a girl from my literature class whisper to her friend, "That's Drew. You know, Hughes's boyfriend." I nearly spilled my scalding latte all over myself. Boyfriend. The word felt like something straight out of one of my dreams, but the fact that it was all a charade left a bitter taste in my mouth. Back at the dorm, Russell had transformed into a full-blown gossip columnist, sprawled across his bunk like a tabloid or on a deadline. "Yo, Drew, you and Hughes are trending on the campus group chat. Someone just called you the new campus power couple," he cackled, waving his phone at me like a trophy. I groaned, slumping onto my bed in defeat. "Eater Eurostrade's not like that, Russ. I'm just helping him out." Sure, he said, his smirk never leaving his face. Helping him out by holding his hand and gazing into his dreamy, mysterious eyes. "Shut up," I grumbled, throwing a nearby sock at him. It landed squarely on his face, and he let out a theatrical cry of pain. "Abuse! I'm being abused!" I couldn't help but laugh, even though my chest felt tight with a familiar ache. The door swung open, and Hughes walked in, his backpack slung over one shoulder. He was wearing a gray sweater that clung to his lean frame, making him look like he'd just walked off a runway in Milan. My heart, as always, did its stupid, traitorous flip. "What's so funny?" he asked, his voice a low rumble. "Drew's in denial about his undying love for you," Russell announced, deftly dodging another sock I launched at him. "Tell him to stop lying to himself, Hughes." Hughes Eurostrade's eyes flicked over to me, and I could have sworn I saw a glint of amusement in their dark depths. "Is he now?" He set his bag down and, to my confusion, grabbed the towel that was draped over the end of my bunk. "You done showering, Drew?" I nodded, my hair still damp from my earlier rinse. "Yeah, just chilling." "Smooth, Drew. Real smooth." He stepped closer, and before my brain could even begin to process what was happening, he was gently wiping my wet hair with a towel. His touch was careful and deliberate, the kind of intimate gesture you'd see between a real couple. My mind went completely blank. "Got to dry this properly," he murmured, his voice impossibly soft. "Don't want you catching a cold." Babe. The word struck me like a bolt of lightning. I was frozen solid, my face erupting in a fiery blush. Across the room, Russell's jaw had dropped so far that a cascade of potato chips spilled from his open mouth onto his bed. "Polya Euros, you guys are actually cute," he stammered, fanning his face dramatically. "So when's the wedding?" "Russell, I will end you," I muttered, but my voice was shaky and weak. Hughes was still toweling my hair, his fingers occasionally brushing against the sensitive skin of my neck. It was all too much. I wanted to lean into his touch, to close my eyes and pretend this was real, but I knew it wasn't. It was just a performance for Russell's benefit, another scene in our elaborate play for the rumor mill. Finally, Hughes stepped back, tossing the towel onto my bunk. "There, better." He grabbed his water bottle and headed out of the room, leaving me behind as a blushing, hyperventilating mess. The second the door closed, Russell pounced. "Dude, he called you babe. You cannot tell me that's not real. I need details now. It's complicated," I managed to say, yanking my curtain shut. Complicated, as in I'm falling deeper and harder for a guy who is just putting on an act. I buried my face in my pillow, wishing with all my might that I could simply turn off these feelings. That night, I dreamt of Hughes again, but it was different this time. We were in our dorm room, but he wasn't the warm, cuddly boyfriend of my usual dreams. He was standing by the door, arms crossed over his chest, his eyes as cold as chips of ice. "What's wrong, Drew? Don't like me anymore?" His voice was sharp, laced with an accusation that cut me to the quick. I shrank back, my dream self feeling small and vulnerable. "No, Euros, I like you a lot," I stammered. He stepped closer, his form towering over me. "Then why were you dodging me?" he snapped. I woke up with a gasp, my heart pounding a frantic rhythm against my ribs. The dorm was shrouded in darkness, the silence broken only by Russell's steady snores. I clutched my blanket, thoroughly rattled. Why was Dream Hughes so angry? It had felt disturbingly real, as if I had actually heard those words spoken aloud. The next day, I was a zombie. I sat through my classes in a fog, my notebook filling with meaningless doodles as I tried desperately to avoid thinking about the dream. Hughes had been noticeably distant since the towel incident, reverting back to his usual one-word answers. Maybe he was getting bored of this whole fake boyfriend arrangement. Or worse, maybe he was weirded out by how much I was clearly enjoying it. I was spiraling into a vortex of anxiety when a text from Russell lit up my phone. "Group chats wild. PPL say Hughes too hot for you. Rude." I rolled my eyes, but I couldn't resist checking the chat. Sure enough, there was an entire thread dedicated to debating the validity of our relationship. "Hughes is way out of Drew's league," one person wrote. "Bet it's just a prank," another commented. My stomach twisted. They weren't exactly wrong. Hughes was the campus golden boy, Euros, athletic, brilliant, and completely untouchable. And I was just a Euros me, average, awkward, and far too gay for my own good. At lunch, I spotted him in the cafeteria, holding court with his debate team friends. He was laughing, the picture of easy charm and confidence. I decided not to approach. Fake boyfriends probably shouldn't crash real friend time. But then he looked up, and his eyes met mine across the crowded room. To my surprise, he waved me over. My feet were moving before I had a chance to overthink it. "Hey," I said, sliding into an empty seat at their table. His friends gave me curt nods, but I could feel their collective gaze on me, judging me, undoubtedly wondering what someone like Hughes saw in someone like me. "Grabbed you a sandwich," Hughes said, sliding a wrapped sub across the table in my direction. As he did, his knee brushed against mine under the table, and I nearly choked on air. Figured you'd skip lunch again. Ah, thanks, I mumbled, feeling the familiar blush creep up my neck. His friends exchanged knowing looks. One of them muttered the word whipped, and the rest of them chuckled. Hughes just smirked, completely unbothered. I was dying inside, torn between adoring this public display of affection and hating the fact that none of it was real. Later, back at the dorm, Russell was still on his gossip kick. Saw you two at lunch. Hughes is like super into you. Just admit it, you're smitten. Drop it, Russ, I snapped, climbing into the safety of my bunk. He just laughed. But I wasn't in the mood. I felt like I was drowning in this charade. Every casual touch, every fake babe, only made me want him more, and it was a want that could never be satisfied. The dream from the previous night hadn't helped. His coldness had felt like a dire. What if he was getting sick of this game? What if my feelings were becoming too obvious and he was starting to pull away? I closed my eyes, dreading the moment I would fall asleep. If I dreamt of him again, would he be the sweet, affectionate Hughes or the angry, accusatory one? Either way, I knew that waking up to the real Hughes Euros distant, untouchable, and completely oblivious Euros would hurt just as much as it always did. I was in far too deep and I couldn't see any way out.